Hey, and welcome to another edition of the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. I'm your host, Dougie Almeida, coming to you from Simpsonville, South Carolina, where I'm blending in. Actually, some of my friends are like, why'd you leave South Florida to move to Greenville, South Carolina area? I'm like, because I don't want to worry about 150-mile-an-hour hurricane winds blowing my house away. Everybody in Florida, bunker down, baby, bunker down. You know what I'm saying? Be careful. Big category 4 hitting your ass. Don't have to worry about it now. Anyway, proud of that. So anyway, besides that, we got a great show for you today. I got two of my fellow friends in the business of comedy. We're going to be talking about comedy, and we got some funny stories we're going to go over with you. Without further ado, let me bring on our guests today, Daniel Ickes and Dan Ellison. What's up, fellas?
What's up?
What's happening?
There we go. Daniel, did I pronounce your last name correctly, Daniel?
No, not at all, but it's fine. Everybody gets it wrong.
How do you pronounce your last name, Daniel?
It's Ichis.
Ichis.
Yeah.
See, I tried to make it sound in European. Ickes, like a Greek god or something. Trying to make it.
I get it all. Eucus
Yeah.
is the one that always throws me off. I'm like, what? How do you get that out of EA? But
yeah, mucus.
Yeah.
Just call me Spit. To make it short. Actually, Daniel, we met back. I think it was at the what was that place in Talamuca, Pachanga Casino.
Yeah.
Back in the day where you opened for me, Mr. Dry Bar, and
they're still closed for COVID. I mean, the casino's open, but still no comedy shows right now, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's bugging me. They were talking about it. They're getting it reopened soon, that location, and the Laughlin location too. So, Dan, have you ever done that room? You ever done the Pachanga Casino?
No, I have not.
Yeah, fun room. When we did it, they had a different room, and then they have another one. They remodeled the other room, which is a bit different. But and of course, Dan, you and I met at the World Series of Comedy, many different satellites, and every time I see your face, I think of the dildo joke.
I think that's Joe's favorite joke too. That and Carvana.
There's a dildo factory. That's awesome.
I hope you like my background. This is the dash of the van. I'm in my mobile recording studio in a side yard somewhere in Vancouver, Washington.
There you go. Now, Dan, it's great about Dan has a van. Dan has a van with a fucking air conditioning unit connected to it, a bed, and you live in that van pretty much. You're all over the country in that van.
I've been living in it right now since August 6th, and I'll be in it until mid-December living in it.
Wow. Where do you take a dump at? You don't have a toilet in there, do you?
No, I park at truck stops, and then people I know, I park outside their houses, and then you learn to be regular on the highway. You don't have any surprise ones, and so when I get up in the morning, it's going to be somewhere between 9 or 2 for the second one, and then you get it, and then you get on the road, and then the rest of the day I'm good, and it's a different lifestyle, but I save between $8,000 and $10,000 a year on hotels.
It's true. I mean, you got to shit in somebody's yard or somebody's house, knocking on the door. Hey, I got to fucking I got to pinch a big fucking log on your.
Yeah, I got one pulling into Brownsville Station. Come on.
Daniel, where are you living, Daniel?
I am in a vanule. No, that was a dumb joke. Dan's in a van. Okay. I am in Long Beach, good old Long Beach, California.
Very cool. And it's like I was talking to somebody the other day, and a friend says, "Hey, I got a buddy who's a comic, and he has to sleep in the car, and he sleeps at rest stops." And I'm like, I got 20,000 shares of Amazon, dude. I ain't fucking sleeping in a fucking rest stop. I can get a fucking hotel. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have a career. I have a business. I can work from my computer and everywhere. So, I'm not as concerned about how much money I'm making when I perform. It's more about where I'm performing. And I'm trying to keep stepping it up. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not encumbered by having to make money. Daniel, again, congratulations on the dry bar special. That's always great. I'm working on one myself. How big is that? How big was that for the career?
Yeah, I mean it was great. I had just gotten done recording like my first album, and then that came like 2 months later, and yeah, it was great. It was a ride though when I recorded it. There were like a couple things. The first one was that I every time I get sick, I lose my voice. So I've always, I mean, way before COVID, I'm always just like super terrified of getting sick because I lose my voice every time, and then I can't perform for like 2 weeks. I've had to cancel so many gigs because of that. And sure enough, I get sick like a week and a half before I have to record the dry bar special, and my voice is gone. And I was freaking out thinking that I wasn't going to be able to record it. But yeah, within like the day before, I ended up getting my voice back. And luckily you can hear it, because if not, I would have had to bring on props or learn how to mime or something.
Yeah, have a bad translator. Do it. I mean, that used to happen. Shit like that used to happen to me, like when I was fighting, like almost before every fight. Like you train for weeks, Muay Thai, you're training and shit, and then when you're getting ready for the fight, like the week before, because your body was just so revved up and shit, because you start getting that angst. Sure enough, man, the night before, I think it was my last fight, the two nights before, I started getting cold, all congested and shit. I was like, oh, I'm not sleeping, and then like a dope, I took NyQuil the night before, because the night before my fight, and my trainer almost beat the shit out of me himself. He's like, "You fucking dumbass! You taking NyQuil the night before a fight?" So by the third round, I was exhausted as a woman in a gangbang. But it was nevertheless. But
Well, that could be a commercial for NyQuil.
yeah, I'm sure they're not going to be sponsoring the podcast anytime soon.
Never know.
Yeah. Dan's got a special on Amazon that's about to come out. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, we were. That's what I'm out here doing right now. There's a tour associated with. We're doing Jokers and Jesters. It's the second special they've done on Amazon Prime. It's the next special, and I got added to the group, and I'm enjoying it. We filmed down in Port Orford, Oregon. Had a blast. It's a little place called Mr. Ed's Juice and Espresso Underground. And it's one of these places where the walls are lined with guitars of all the famous guitarists who've come in there and played. Because it's kind of like one of those hidden places that all the important people go. And it was a great time filming. And we've been touring basically Wednesday through Sunday every week now for this will be the third or fourth week. And then we go clear into mid-December. So it's been busy. It's changed. It's nice to get back to work because we've all been laid off for what 2 years really, and you get a little bit of work here, and then people would get scared, and then they'd cancel shows, and then it would come back, and now people aren't so much scared about the shows, so we haven't had many cancellations on this trip. I'm happy about that. So not even hearing anybody talking about, are you vaxxed out here? That's even, disappeared into the sideline. Whereas I had one booker out here tell me I had to be vaxxed to work in Oregon. And I'm like, what? I don't think so. But I told her, I said, maybe next year, maybe the hysteria will be dead by then. And so it's been a good year to get back to working and making money. And I don't like them. I'm like you. I'm not a big money chaser. The reason I like comedy is it gives me the ability to be a slacker and do a lot of hiking. And I love to do that. And that's what I've been doing while I've been out here is just hike, and relax. And every penny I don't spend is a penny I don't have to make. And I love living in a van on the highway. I know a lot of people don't get that, but to me, it's a sweet life because I don't have to worry about making a ton of money.
Well, there's something to say about a lot less stress, because I've been dealing with a lot of anxiety lately with some other shit going on. And being somebody who manages the stock market and watching it drop 10% in a month alone, it's been fucking nuts, like they said, the more you take on, the more shit you got to deal with. You know what I mean? How about your
Yeah,
living
having more
arrangements?
isn't always a blessing. Having
Yeah,
more
yeah,
isn't always a
exactly.
blessing. Because see, I was an electrical engineer before I did comedy. And then you had to have insurance on the house and then worry if somebody hurt their foot on your property and have insurance on your car and have, life insurance and all this other stuff. And now it's just, I got my insurance on my car. I don't have to worry about a house because I don't own one. I don't even rent one. I live in an RV when I get home. Uh, I don't regret it though. It's kind of a very simple, easy life. And when you find out what you really need to live, it makes it kind of easy to just say goodbye to everything and relax.
Yeah, yeah. Well, exactly. There's something to say though that if you can't perform and you can't work, then you're really going to be out there trying to. Can I eat this? You're going to be going walking through the woods. Can I eat this shit? See, I couldn't survive, dude. Listen, I couldn't survive even if I couldn't use my navigation. I'd be fucked. Okay, I'd be like, oh, I'm fucked. So congratulations to you for being a survivor. How about you financially, Dan? Is things going good on comedy where you're doing well on your own? You, you
I
living with
do
18 roommates? What's
comedy.
going on?
I do comedy strictly for the money. I hate doing it. It's just money. No, I'm in LA, so nobody owns a house here unless like you gotta be Tom Hanks pretty much to have a house. I am in a house, but I rent it. So I got a good living situation. There's a couple who we basically have the house split in half, where I have like half of it, they have half of it, and I've been out on the road a lot this year, but I also do a lot of acting stuff. So um, that always, I don't know, it's sort of half and half. And I know next year I want to focus more on staying in town a lot more often so I can do even more acting stuff. But it's going all right. It's
Yeah,
been good.
the road could be a bummer because one of the questions I wanted to ask you, by the way, this is part of our new segment. Let me ask you. There you go,
Hey,
beautiful. Let me ask you. Um, because people, obviously, one of the best things. Somebody asked me, what's your favorite part about comedy? My favorite part about comedy is telling a joke and watch a few hundred people laugh their fucking ass off. Being able to wield that type of power, and change somebody's life or feeling like that, with a word or two. That to me is the reason I do it. Making something up on stage because I love doing crowd work. So, I just put a clip on my fan page about it was a bachelor party. I don't know if you got to go to Dougie Almeida's Facebook fan page or go to my YouTube channel. New clip just put out, bachelor party moment because we all know bachelor parties can like bachelorette parties at a show can go fucking really wrong or they can go great. You know what I mean? What about you, Dan? What's your favorite part about it?
I really enjoy the entertainment side of it. That's the drug. I think anybody who really gets into it, there's something about when a whole room full of people just rip at you and turn loose. You feel the energy, you feel your hair stand up, you love it. But I really enjoy, like I said, the other side that I discovered while I've been traveling full time since '96 up till 2008. And that was 300 plus days a year. And then I came off the highway for 5 years to care for my parents because they got disabled. And then I went right back to the highway as soon as I could. My girlfriend laughs at me and says, "You have a very restless soul, and I can't sit still. If I'm in the same place more than a week, I'm not happy. I like to just be here today and there tomorrow and the
Hmm.
next place and the next place and the next place." So the travel side of it, as much people would hate it, I love it. I've slept on the oceans. I've been in the redwoods. I've seen almost every corner of this country, and we live in a beautiful place. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like I said, I was an
Yeah.
engineer. I had a full ride, 6 weeks, company car, the whole 9 yards. But the corporate world thinks they own you, and like you will do this and you will do that. Look, you give me a
Yeah.
paycheck. That's what you give me. And when I saw comedy and I found out I was good enough to make money at it, I put my wife through school and she got a teaching job, was supposed to take care of the health insurance and all that. And I went on my first tour and she emptied the house, cleaned out the checking account, canceled my health insurance, and moved my kids to another city. So this is what was left.
God damn, he's smiling, fucker.
I
You know
don't
what I mean?
care.
Yeah.
You get to a certain point where I'm just going to be happy, and then whatever's going to happen is whatever's going to happen. There's not much I can change. I live my life to plan life. You know, I had the 401k, and I had the house and the golf course community, and I had the wife who was a teacher, and all. I had everything, and then it all just went poof,
Yeah.
and disappeared. And then
Yeah.
I came to this, and I was like, I went through years on the road. You know, road's like therapy. So I did my own little road therapy, and then I figured out, you know what? I'm much happier. And then I was like, well, I don't need stuff. And then life became really simple because I had car collections, and that all requires money. It used to go fishing in the deep sea, that required money. And then you eliminate all the things that don't require money. You suddenly have time. You're not running around like some idiot trying to make something happen every single second of the day. And I'm just enjoying early retirement.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Now, Daniel, you're a younger guy, so you got a lot more shit to plan ahead. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But you did mention, you know, like I'll say this in between that, like I don't mind to try. I like getting places, like being in different places. I just hate going through the shit to get there. Like if I could, I would rather drive everywhere if it was possible, you know, because I don't mind driving 10, 12 hours. I'm not a problem with that. I just hate getting on an airplane with some fucking, and some big fat guy thinks, oh, it's a good, I'm going to get in the middle seat next to this fat guy. You know, listen, I was on the plane, and this guy literally on Southwest was going to sit down. He goes, that seat taken? I go, dude, are you kidding me? I looked at him, I go, are you kidding me? You want to sit next to me, bro? Why don't you go find an old lady, you know, to sit in between, you know? This is not fucking, he was like, oh, are you serious? I go, yeah, I'm fucking serious. Do you want to think I'm doing a 4-hour fucking flight with you and me sitting next to each other, looking like two titties in a bra? Just fucking go somewhere else. That's the beauty of being a comic, because you can say that shit, you know, in public and not be blamed. But Daniel, like you said, you're sticking around to do the acting and stuff, but that's, you know, when you don't travel, that eliminates a lot of stress.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I have the exact opposite, same issue, different situation. People look at me, they're like, "Oh, you're skinny. I'll take advantage of this guy. Here's a seat and a half for me."
Yeah.
And I always have to be like, "Are you gonna pay for the armrest? Because how come? How come if you're overweight, you have to pay for 2 seats, but I don't get to pay for half a seat? Huh? How? What?
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
the logic there?" I
You
don't
are
use
right.
the
If I
whole
saw,
thing.
if I was coming up and I saw you in the seat, I go, oh, I'm going to sit next to this little dude. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to.
See, so I always get like, I'm always hoping for like, I don't know, the hot girl, and instead it's always the sweaty guy who's just like, this'll do.
That's true.
I don't mind, honestly, I don't mind the traveling part of it. I don't mind driving or flying. I do like seeing, I don't know, I do like seeing what's out there, even the Laughlin, Nevadas of the world. I think so often you know you hear people you know waiting until they retire to travel and to be lucky enough to get to travel and see a bunch of stuff when you're younger and get to go do a bunch of stuff that you know none of my friends are getting to, you know, none of my non-comic friends are getting to do. You know, it's really cool.
Yeah, I think you're right. You mentioned Laughlin. It's like, I remember the first time I went to Laughlin, you're like driving through the fucking desert from Vegas, you know, and you're like, where the hell am I going? You know what I mean? And then you go over this little ridge, and you're heading down this like mountain in a sense, and you're coming down, and you see this little oasis, because it looks from a distance, it looks like an oasis. There's like there's like a river running through it, and everybody's just all habitants of just, you know, just suckled up right to the water, you know, to be as close to this fucking thing as possible.
Yeah.
But when you're there, it's funny as shit, because when you take that walk, you stay at the edge of water, you take that walk along, and then you go into you cross the border, right? You go over the bridge, you're in another state. And you're right, that's the kind of shit. And I take pictures from there. My friend's like, where the fuck is that? I'm like, old Vegas, baby. It's old Vegas. But there are definitely places like that. Like in Portland, I was in Portland a few weeks back, you know, being able to drive, you know, through through those beautiful areas and stuff, you know, it's different. But then of course, then you got to do gigs like in Wichita or fucking, you know, Tulsa and shit, you know, which, you know, not that glamorous, I guess.
Not glamorous, but you do get to see You know, it's one thing to go see the Eiffel Tower. It's another thing to go 10 blocks away and see how the people of Paris live. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's
Yeah.
what we get to do. You know,
Yeah.
there's touristy stuff, but we get to actually see the real America, for better or worse. You know.
No, that's true, man. It's true. You can. So, if now that we talked about some of the good things, what do you think? Probably the worst thing. What's the worst thing about comedy?
You want me to go first, or the other?
Come on,
You want to
don't
go
you?
first this time?
No, go ahead.
All right. I'm not going to be popular for this. Cops. I I've done 2 million miles. I've had one instance where somebody tried to rob me, and I've been pulled over 50 times on fishing expeditions for drugs.
Yeah.
I've been pulled over following too closely, crowding the white line, dangling objects, fluttering hood, dirty license plate. Uh, I can make a list. And to have all of your personal belongings going through like you're some common criminal is disgusting. And
Hmm.
but that has changed now that pot's been legalized to a certain extent, because when I went into California through the fruit checkpoint, I had my weed sitting in bottles next to me in the middle console, but I had to take time to hide my potatoes because you can't bring fruits and vegetables into California. You
Really?
can rob their drugstores, you can poop on the street, you can shoot up your heroin, but hey, leave that nana at the border. And
It's so fucked up.
so
It's so
every
fucking
real
true.
problem I've had on the highway has to do with law enforcement and not with one criminal. But
Hmm.
that's my biggest thing. Because if I didn't have to worry about being pulled over for some made up BS reason, I would travel more relaxed. Matter of fact, that's
Yeah.
why I bought a dash cam with the speed on it, was to protect myself, because I got one ticket and the guy said I was doing 80 and a 60, which I absolutely wasn't. But it's his word against your word. And so
Yeah.
that's why I got a camera. And now I've already used it in one case where a cop has pulled me over. So it's already saved itself.
Yeah.
But
Not a bad
that's
move.
that's it. Other than that, I love the people. I love the travel. That's my one thing. If I could fix in comedy, I would fix that.
So if it was up to Dan, he would he would defund the police across the country just so
No,
he can.
actually, see, that's the other thing though. Uh, Here's the other end of it. I'm not for defunding the police, but I am for police that respect your rights. Because, see,
Yeah.
when I was younger, if a cop pulled me over for a taillight out, he wouldn't come up and touch the rear bumper because I'm a deadly criminal and he knows it. He would come up to my window and he'd go, "Excuse me, sir, but do you know you have a taillight out? I know this is how it would go because I've had this happen when I was younger." And I was like, "No, sir, I did not." And he goes, "Well, get it fixed." And I said, "Thank you." And he walked. But
Hmm.
now, because I'm crowding a white line, uh, it comes up to the window: license, registration, proof of insurance, your papers. You must produce your papers. So I produce my papers. And then comes the questions that assault you in that, got any wants or warrants? Well, what would make you think that I have wants or warrants? Well, I ask everybody that. So you treat everybody as if they're guilty until you prove them innocent. The exact upside down of what you promised to do. If you notice, nobody wants to defund the detectives.
Well,
They want to defund the 8 cruisers sitting in the middle of interstate in a wolf pack, robbing people as they pass, while people go into a Walgreens with a bag and empty the shelves into the bag and walk scot free.
listen,
That's the problem I have with the
I think
police.
I think we're gonna put together a GoFundMe page for Dan so he can get a new fucking scoot, like a Sprinter van, so he doesn't have to deal with this shit. Because his van's like the old Cheech and Chong van rolling down the fucking street with a fucking air conditioned unit sticking out of the back and shit. You know, but we got to
Well,
change
the
that
thing
so you don't
about
have to
this
deal with that.
though, I've been pulled over in a Toyota Celica. I've been pulled over in a Honda Civic. I've been pulled over in a Grand Prix. I've been pulled over in a van. I've been pulled over in a 24-foot Tioga motorhome. I've been pulled over in a Nissan pickup truck, 2 Geo Storms, and I think that's it.
All right, Dan. So it's not the car, it's you. All right. Maybe you should wear a fucking mask. Wear like a Bill Clinton mask when you're driving or something. It's clearly not the car. It's it's that beard. It's anybody who's got those scruffy little beards. They're a drug addict or peddling meth. Daniel, what do you think is the worst part about it?
Well, I just want to be able to bring my bananas from Nevada into California. You know what I mean? Yeah. They've got the best bananas there. No, I would say, there are plenty of worse things in the world to complain about. But when it comes to comedy, you can't, people almost forget sometimes you're a real person. And I guess when it comes to show, and we've had this situation, somebody comes up to you and they're like, I got a joke for you. And you're like, you get a little depressed because you're like, man, you liked the show, you liked what you saw, and you still, like, you don't realize that I put my heart and soul into writing all this stuff for the past few years, and you just think I'm going to take your, shitty joke that you tell people at the office and start using it on stage. Like, it's a little depressing sometimes. You're just like, oh, God, you're the one who liked me, and you think I'm going to say that joke on stage? They always suck. Those jokes are always terrible.
They're never
good. Most of the time, for me, they're always a little bit insulting in the sense. I remember one guy came up to me after a show once, and super nice guy. Like, he was very like complimentary, but he's like, I got a joke for you, and I was like, okay, let's hear it. And he's like, all right, use this one on stage. You're so skinny you can't even carry a box. And I'm just like, okay, thanks. Huh. I was like, was that supposed to be a joke, or are you just saying I'm a worthless piece of shit? Is that all you're saying?
He just wanted to call me a skinny fuck, you asshole.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is horrible.
I could do without the like respect the art. What's that?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, there's nothing worse than you're sitting there and somebody goes up, oh, I got a joke for you. Like, oh, I can, and I actually got a complaint for one particular comedy club I still haven't worked with yet in Florida. There was a woman who came out to me and says, she goes, oh, before the show, she goes, oh, you're one of the comics. I'm like, yeah. She was like all blonde and thinking she's all that shit. And she's like, why don't you tell me a joke? I go, well, I'm about to go up and do an hour of jokes. So if you're going to be here, you might as well just sit down and watch me do an hour of the jokes than me tell you one here at the bar. She's like, oh, come on. You want to tell me a joke? Like, tell me a joke. And I'm like, well, I could tell you're one of these women who think the guys do everything for you, but I'll tell you a joke. There's a fucking, I turn the switch on, then I fucking tell jokes. Right now, I'm just a guy chilling out before the show. That lady called, put a complaint in and said some shit, made up some shit. I found out, you know what I mean? And it's like this weekend, it was so funny. In one of the shows, which we're going to get into, I don't know, one of the questions I'm going to ask you, let me ask you. What do you think about 6 p.m. shows on a Friday? This woman, I could tell. I'm sitting there as the crowd's coming in, and this guy and his wife and other couples come in. Their table of like 4 or 6 people. And the woman's coming in. You could see it. She's not happy. She's just one of these women who are looking around like, where are we going to sit? And the husband's like, well, how about, sit over here? And she's like, she looks where he's sitting. She looks away other places. And I'm like, oh, look at this. You could tell, you live long enough. You can, you don't need to be an FBI agent to profile people. You're like, oh, that's a miserable fucking woman. She's like so controlling. You can see it. Sure enough, I tell this abortion joke. I tell in the beginning, it's a quick one. And it's funny. It's a fucking stupid. And you go, oh, and then the whole time I'm up there, she's chatting. Oh, I don't like this guy. I can hear her in the back. And then I tell a joke. I'm not racist. It's into her. And she's like, you are racist. And then she's like, she's clamoring and shit. So I ignored her because I'm opening for somebody. I didn't want to get into it. I wanted to go on and say, ma'am, I'm sorry you're so unhappy and that you were not a cheerleader when you were in high school. And if you were a cheerleader, you're probably that fat skank on the bottom of the pyramid and you're not happy about that. I'm sorry you weren't homecoming queen. Yeah, you know what I mean? You know, you're not a tumbler, you know, you're not a tumbler. In a shit. And I was ready to, you know, I was ready to give it all. And I'm like, I held back and I didn't. And then of course the woman gets up. After the show, the headliner's up. She gets up and she's coming around. She sees me in the back table. She looks at me. So I go like, I'm sitting there like this. She's walking by. I'm just sitting there like this. And she's looking at me. She's like, hey, you give me the finger. I'm like, yeah, I'm giving you the fucking finger, bitch. So yeah, that kind of shit gets crazy, you know. For me, that craziness is it's like always relative in this business. You know, you're up here, but you're trying to get here, you know, and then you're there. Now you're trying to get here. And it's like this endless, like I gotta kind of like what you don't like in the corporate world, right? Because that's what the corporate world's all about. You're doing all this shit for the man and you're doing it and it's never enough. You know, you always ask for more. You know, so sometimes that because I've had friends say, dude, you're killing it. You're working all the time. I'm like, well, why the fuck aren't I happy? You know what I mean? Why is it I'm still feel like I've still got to do so much more, you know? So it's amazing to me that's because I don't know if that's just who I am or the business, but I always feel like there's more I could be doing. You know, there's just more I could be doing to get to the next level. You know what I'm saying?
Also, people don't consider our career a career. Because does anybody ever come up to you going, how's that comedy job going? No, they all come up, how's that skit thing going? How's your jokies going? They never address you in any remoteness that it's serious whatsoever. You're
Yeah.
somehow some kind of Looney Tune and something wrong with you, but it's never how's your job.
Yeah. Good point. But I think that
Yeah.
changes when you get on TV a bit. I think people will start looking at you a little more. I mean, you see a little bit of a change with the special or with like the dry bar special, Daniel?
Not really. No, even with acting, you know, it all comes down to like, there's so many people, and I don't really blame them, but they just don't know everything that goes into it. You know what I mean? I feel like the analogy I always have, because we all know that guy who's like, oh, I'm the funniest guy I know, you know, who's like, I was funny at a party once, I could do this, you know, but they've never tried comedy, and then they go up there once and they, you know, they eat it. Uh, the analogy I always have is with football, right? Anybody could throw a ball. Some people could throw a ball really hard, but being able to throw a ball to a receiver while a defense is coming at you and there's an audience yelling at you and they're running a route and you're trying to switch and watch your footwork and throw it past this defender, that's stand-up comedy. And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people think it's just throwing a ball. You
Yeah.
know?
Dude, that is such a great point. You know what I mean? Like I'm really
Yeah.
big in this word proficiency. You know, I was looking at this because I spent 33 years of my life as a financial advisor. You know, and I got into a discussion with some local comic out here that was trying to explain to me what caused inflation. And I'm like, bitch, you've been a fucking dishwasher and a taxi cab driver. Don't fucking tell me you understand why inflation fucking happens. Okay. You can read, I'm putting a bit together called Google Geniuses, you know, in hindsight Hindus. These fucking people like that. It's under that premise that you're talking about, Daniel, that people think they look at that one dimension of something, go, oh, that's easy. You know, I could throw the ball, you know, and that would always happen in martial arts. I fought in 10 pro Muay Thai kickboxing matches. I've been training since I'm 4 years old. People think, I know how to punch. No, it's fucking different. You know, it's different it's different when you hit a bag than what it is when somebody's about to knock you the fuck out, you know, and all that other things. Learning by the Marines call it learning by fire. You know, like you have to get into the fucking battle before you do, you know, and then like I laughed at a comic recently. She goes to me, she goes, should I work on my new material? I go, how long you been doing comedy? She's like, 2 years. I go, it's all fucking new
It's all new.
material. You've been doing comedy 2 years. That shit's all new. You know, the shit you haven't even written yet is new. You know what I'm saying? It's just fucking fun. That's a great point because people don't get everything that consists of what we do. You know, you got to get booked. You got to put shit out. You got to do, you know, orchestrate yourself. You got to, you know, learn how to balance your the timing of your jokes. You know, yeah, it's people like I had a comic. He's like, "What? Give me some notes." And he wanted me to give him notes about his material. And I said, "Dude, you got years to work on your material. Here's your notes. Stop looking down. You know, simple. How many new comics you see will tell jokes and they're looking down like this, and they'll look up and you know." I said, just start with that. You know, oh, that's it. Yeah, just fucking start with that. It's just a simple thing.
Yeah,
But this is
yeah, it's just so much to it. I think yeah, a lot of it has to do with people. You know, the average person has never done stand up comedy, so they don't really know what's in it. But they would know that in a movie, you know, if something's, it's not all about the jokes too with stand up. You know what I mean? Like in a movie, they know that it's not. If a movie's bad, they don't sit there and go, "Oh, what a terrible script." You know, because it's not even about the words half the time. Most of the time, it's like, well, that actor was terrible and director didn't know what he was doing, and this shot sucks, and this thing, you know, get that about movies. Well, it's the exact same thing with stand up, and I don't think people realize that it's not. Sometimes it's not even just about the jokes. It's about, you know, everything else that's at you at once, and still trying to deliver those words.
Yeah, it's true, man. Quick question. Let me ask you: who is on your Mount Rushmore of comedy? Dan?
you're going me first again. All right.
Yeah.
I go way back. I think the first stand up I ever really saw in person was Steve Martin, back when he was doing King Tut and all that. And
Yeah.
Excuse Me and The Arrow Through the Head. I saw him when I was young, and then I listened to Cheech and Chong, Nice Dreams. That was a fave amongst everybody back when I was in school.
Yeah.
And I've seen Gilbert Gottfried, and not many people pick him, but if you've ever seen him in a bar, he's an animal, and it's fun to watch. And it's just,
Right.
you're like, wow, I can't believe you said that. So even with all that said, I have to go Carlin. I have to.
Yeah.
That's my pinnacle, because he's so political, but it's really hard to put him in a side in my book.
Yeah.
Unless you pick libertarian, because he's very much for the individual. And so I think that he did great work, great groundbreaking work. His specials are always entertaining. It's hard to find somebody who's not even remotely a Carlin fan. You know, it's really hard to find somebody who's not remotely. I would have to say Carlin. So Mount Rushmore. So I got 4, right? So that'd be Carlin, Steve Martin, simply because he got me started, and Cheech and Chong that's my biggest influences.
Yeah. Mr. Stadenko. My brother used to have the fucking, you know, the Cheech and Chong album that came out and made it look like a desk, school desk.
Yep.
And rolling papers and shit, you know. One of my favorite Cheech and Chong moments, 2 guys are walking through the snow. Hey, what is that? I don't know. Looks like dog shit. Pick it up. What? Pick it up. Ugh, feels like dog shit. Smell it. What? Smell. Ugh, smell like dog shit. Taste. What? Taste. Ugh, tastes like dog shit. Oh, good thing we don't step in it.
Did you ever hear Nice Dreams when they were Fachina and they were getting ready for a frontal assault? They were like, "Oh, they just spread something slippery on us. They're going to try to slip something past us." And then you hear the phone ring, and they said, "Oh, it's the asshole. She's worried they're going to try to slide by her."
Crazy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Funny stuff.
It was groundbreaking. If you think about what was out back at that time, it was 100% original and groundbreaking.
Yeah. I got to see them when they came back. They went back on tour for a little bit years ago. Saw them in Miami. They went together and they did a lot of the skits, which was pretty fucking funny. Daniel, who are some, you know, next they have to have 4, but who would be some people you'd like to see in the comedy Mount Rushmore?
I think I'd keep Abraham Lincoln on there. I feel like you should you should stay on there. Honestly, this sounds like it's a cop out, but I think honest to God I would leave it blank. I don't think I can choose, and I don't think it's because, you know, there's lots of funny people out there, but comedy's so cultural and so subjective that yeah, I know it sounds like blasphemy, but 200 years from now, people are going to look back at who we think is hilarious, and they're going to be like, I don't get it at all.
Yeah.
What I don't
Yeah.
understand what's funny about that. It's so, and that's the beauty of stand-up, is it's always changing. We're always pushing ourselves to make it better, and it's so hard to say who is the best, because it also comes down to, well, do we want the funniest person, or do we want somebody who, the person who like started the creative aspect, the originality part of it? I always I play guitar, and I'm like a big rock fan, and if you like rock at all, people are always talking about who's the greatest guitar player of all time, right? And that's always been such a hard one for me too, because you look at, you take two people like Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen. Who's better? Well, I don't know, because there would be no Eddie Van Halen without Jimi Hendrix. And at the same time, could Jimi Hendrix have done what Eddie Van Halen could do? Probably not. One's
Right.
technically great, and the other one created stuff.
Sure.
Was the originality part of it. So, as much as it sounds like a cop out, I don't think I could choose, because when I first started, I actually got into reading books and at the local library, like biographies and stuff. And the local library, they had all the old ones. It was like George Burns, Milton Berle, like some of the Jack Benny, like Bob Hope, and comics like that. You got people who think they're the greatest of all time, and then you got your Carlins and Steve Martin and this whole other generation who came later that you could easily argue is way better than any of those people. But now you got your Dave Chappelle's and Bill Burr's, and I don't know. I don't think I could put anyone on a Rushmore, but also I think that's one of my favorite things about comedy, is that you can't create a Rushmore. It's always going to be
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. It's almost like comedy contests and shit, right? It's like, you could have somebody that's high energy and it's going to make the crowd crazy, but after about 40 minutes, that makes you crazy. I'm a more of a laid back comic. I like kind of like, doing some shit, so it's going to be different, how it lasts per minute, all that kind of shit, you know. It's true what you say too. You think of somebody like Milton Berle, who was like one of the first real TV comics, but he was a fucking huge joke thief. So if you can't put him on you can't put him on there. Yeah, he was funny. A lot of people knew him, but he stole all the jokes from people he saw in the comedy open mics and all the comedy rooms. He stole all their jokes, and he was the first one to put them on fucking TV, and he got credit for them. I had somebody recently ask me that. It's like we were talking about a comic, a well-known comic, I won't mention his name here, but he was stealing. We knew he stole jokes. And they're like, the guy said to me, he says, why would that guy steal jokes? He performs all over the country, blah, 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 blah. I go, that's why he fucking steals jokes, because he can go to a comedy club. He can watch one guy do a joke that he's known as the local comic that only works in Mississippi or some shit. And then he goes on the road to fucking LA and something. He's going to tell that guy's joke, because no one knows this poor guy's joke, And that's the worst thing anybody can. I always learned this. When somebody comes up to you after a show, a big comic, and they go, hey, I like that joke, that means they're fucking taking it. That basically means they're going to fucking take it. Donnell Rollins, fucking working with him at Dr. Grin's one time. This is when Bruce Jenner was going through the transition thing, and he had just had that car accident where he killed somebody. He actually it was vehicular manslaughter.
Yeah.
So the joke was, I'm sure you all heard the news about Bruce Jenner being found guilty of manslaughter. And, it was like a simple fucking joke. And I walked off stage and he goes, that's a funny joke. People are going to take that joke. I go, I guess you're going to fucking take the joke. So, it's just interesting. So, but you're right. But then you have, like, to me, when I judge comics now, I'm impressed with turnover of material. I'm still working a core of material. It's like with Dry Bar, I'm working on the 30 minutes of, that comedy that can work in front of Mormons and stuff versus my normal act. But I'm always impressed when I see a comic and then a year later or whatever, they're doing a complete different 30 fucking minutes. That to me is an impressive aspect of comics that I look and I definitely admire, because that's something I'm working at. I need to really turn over material. I need to really get to writing. You guys have like a method to that madness? Do you guys have a concern about that? What do you guys think when it comes over that material, new material, turning it over? Daniel?
Well, I steal material, so it's pretty easy for me. I'm just kidding. I don't have like a set rule, like I got to do you know, this many minutes in 3 months, and by 6 months, this many, blah, blah, blah. But I do try to constantly be working on stuff. And I don't know. I don't know if there is a standard, but also I try not to get too mad at myself. It's tough. It's conflicting because we live in a society now where, unfortunately, it's like people want stuff online. You got a new clip today? What about, you posted a new one yesterday? What about today? Huh? You don't have a new minute today? It's just like they just want content constantly. And yet, on the other side of the coin, if you look at some of the, like, you know, some of the greats throughout history, whether it's comedy or just whatever it is, not to get too deep about it, but I remember there was a while when I got really into like Da Vinci. I would read through all these like books about Da Vinci, and you'd look at the span of time between some of his major paintings, and sometimes it was like 15 years. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man, can you imagine that nowadays? If you came out with your greatest special and you didn't come out with your next great special till 15 years later, but it worked. You know, we still think of him as one of the greatest artists of all time. So it's like, does it really matter to constantly come out with stuff? I don't know. It's such a changing society that I go back and forth with it. I try to come out with as much as I can, as fast as I can, but I also try not to get mad at myself or disappointed in myself if I don't have the next great bit as quickly as I want it to, you know?
Yeah. That's a good point. You know, it's like in Dan's world there about, you know, keeping things simple. Dan Freezer, he's just fucking okay. Dan, you're so stoic, dude. I thought you're fucking. Jeez, I thought the cop was pulling you over. I thought the cop was coming over. Show me your fucking papers. You know, how about you, Dan, when it comes to writing and turning over material?
Well, it's really funny. Believe it or not, I worked with Alan King way back in the day. I'll tell you how long I've been doing comedy. I did a show with him. And the thing about the old comics, and when I started in comedy, it was about having a perfect set, you know, where every word was the right word, and you could record these people's sets and play them, and they would be lined up word for word all the way through, the pauses and everything. And I started in that mentality of developing the perfect diamond, so to speak, because each place you made a cut, it got better till you got to a point you had a show that was just razor sharp, and didn't matter what club you stepped in, it worked.
Right.
But if you were limited to coming to a club once a year, well, these clubs generally aren't doing that anymore. I'm seeing headliners sometimes 3 and 4 times a year in a room. And if you're coming in headlining and doing your same material, it ain't going to be long before that audience gets a real cue on what you're doing. So if you want to come back more, you got to write more. Now, is what you're writing better than if you had honed a perfect act, or just throwing it out there and actually what you've got is a half-cut diamond that if you worked on it even more would be an even better bit? And so I don't sit down ever to write. I don't ever sit down at any point in the day and go, I'm going to write. And I also don't give myself pressure to write anything. But the best time for me to write is when I'm bored. So when I'm driving and I'm out on tour, the stuff comes to me.
Yeah.
And I'll listen to news and I'll see stories, and then my head starts chewing that fat around. And before you know it, a joke comes out. I put the note in, and like the one I wrote out here in the Pacific Northwest, it's absolutely slaying. It's just an observation I made driving down the road. I sat there and I said, you all have beautiful country out here. I said, it's lovely. I said, I always knew you guys were in hiking, but till I drove through Portland, I had no idea how much you were into camping. I said, you're camping under interstates, you're camping in the cities. I said, I had that kills out here.
Yeah.
And that totally was something that just popped in my head as I was driving. So I don't like to sit and write because I find it to be forced and contrived. I really like to just let it flow.
Yeah, I think them in movement. I know a lot of people, whether it's musicians, writers, comics, like you're saying, when I'm driving, that's when I write a lot, because it seems like my subconscious mind is dealing with the road and all that shit, staying alive. and then the other
Mm-hmm.
subconscious mind is like picking up stuff I'm hearing and thought about. Oh, holy shit, and I could break the phone out and record. Oh my god, this idea. It is funny you
Yep.
said that about my first time in Portland, and we were driving I was with us. Oh shit, it's blanking on me now. Claude Stewart and another Skippy Sprinkles was driving us around, and I'm looking at what the fuck, what's up with all these tents on the side of the road? I mean, I don't get it. And they're like, yeah, it's the fucking homeless. Jesus, you find a bush, you got a fucking campground on the side of the road. Anything that has a little bit of a shelter from the sun, you're gonna fucking put a tent next to it. But it's true. I definitely think that's a good idea. All right, and back to let me ask you, folks. I don't know if you guys know this, but today or on Monday when we're recording the show, NASA is launching a space, basically one of its, I don't know what you call it. It's not a rocket, but basically they're launching a meter into a fucking asteroid to see if it'll deflect it. You guys think you think this is going to work? Do you guys, do you think that we are going to be able to deflect comets? What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, maybe the universe is trying to tell us something, Maybe we should let that comet hit. You know what I mean? You send enough of them, and it's like, well, maybe it should hit us.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be nice to start over here.
Just think about it. You won't have to worry about writing all that new material, Dan. We don't have to worry about,
Exactly.
half the fucking population's gone when new people come back like, oh, you guys haven't heard that joke yet since the fucking fall.
Yeah, it won't matter if you take a potato into California, because potatoes won't exist, and neither will California. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of effort I'm sure the people making this are probably smarter than all three of us combined. These are some of our most intelligent people, and it's like, how often are these comments really threatening us? Once every 500 years. Like, why don't you guys take all that brain power you have and go work on something we need? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are dying. People are living in tents in Portland for summer. Go figure out something better for them. How about that?
Yeah. If an asteroid hits Portland, do the people in fucking tents care? It's a good question. What do you think, Dan?
This is one of those things. We spend so much money on things as a country. I mean, we just think of something and spend a fortune. And there have been meteor impacts on Earth. That's not, you can go out to craters of the moon out here in Idaho and places like that. It's obvious they've been here. So if it's anything that's going to do real damage, I don't see how they possibly are going to inflict enough impact to change, something that's megatons coming in. So I think it's just one of them things where they do to make everybody feel like they're doing something, so that when the funding comes up, they're like, hey, remember, we saved you from that asteroid. Now give us our billions so that we can play Tetris at lunch.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, Daniel?
I mean, I'm a West Coast guy, so it's Starbucks. I don't even know if we have a Dunkin' out here. But honestly, I hear people, and I'm a coffee guy, but I hear people who like Starbucks complain about Dunkin', and people vice versa. I don't know. It all tastes the same to me. I know you're probably gonna yell at me for that, but
How about Dutch
go
Brothers
either way.
then?
I don't care.
How about Dutch Brothers?
Dutch Brothers is more like that's like eating a smoothie for breakfast. It's like eating a candy ice cream sundae for breakfast. Like, it's good, but that's a different kind of coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they got I just drink. I'm very plain. Regular coffee. I put like 1 sugar, 1 creamer in there, and that's about it. The missionary of coffees, and I don't know. I think because of that, I don't really care where I get it from, as long as it's not from a gas station.
There you go. Dan?
You do have a Dunkin' in California. It's in Santa Monica. And the reason I know that, like 5 years ago, I was there, and when it opened, and the entire time I was there for like a month and a half. There was a line 2 blocks long to get in that Dunkin' Donuts. That's how I know they exist there. They have one, and it's doing a booming business. It's right in Santa Monica. Uh, I don't drink Starbucks coffee because I don't want to spend that kind of stupid money on coffee to, because that's stupid. What, $4 or $5 a cup of coffee? It's stupid.
Right.
The best road story I have about coffee comes from Montana. If you've ever driven through Montana, just outside of Butte, there's a Pilot truck stop that used to have coffee. That I got coffee there because once you drank their coffee, you could drive for hours. And
Yeah.
I mean hours. Well, it turns out somebody was putting crank in the coffee there.
Oh shit.
So I like the coffee with crank in it because you want
Yeah.
to talk about waking you up. And it was $1.50 a cup, which was a bargain back in the
No
day.
shit.
So,
Well, no
but
wonder you're getting fucking pulled over by the cops, Dan. You fucking drinking crank all the time. Fucking
drinking
those
crank
cops aren't that
coffee.
stupid. It's crazy. Uh,
But I would have to default to Dunkin' Donuts because, matter of fact, I just drank some of their iced coffee yesterday, and it was good.
yeah, I'm a Dunkin' Donuts guy myself. And my last question of let me ask you: have you ever had to work with somebody you don't like? And without mentioning names, of course, but you know, and of course, now that I bring this up, there's going to be a bunch of comics that I either worked with or about to work with. They're going to be like, "Is he talking about me?" You know what I mean? Um, but it just came up. But like Daniel, have you ever like? It's not necessarily if you
Well,
had to or you did, but like, how do you like if I know I got to work with somebody I just don't like, then I'm like, oh, I mean, I could be professional, ignore everything, but you know, you ever had to do it?
well, before either of you tell your stories, it's pronounced Eachus, okay? So at least say that when you. No, I don't. I hope no one thinks of me as that guy, but yeah. I mean, it's definitely happened a lot, and fortunately or well, unfortunately for me, I get a lot of people. I mean, you mentioned earlier that I was younger. I mean, I've been doing comedy now for 13 years, so it's not, the 30 years like some veterans or whatever. But it's enough to I've done my fair share of shows in all the states and all that kind of stuff and cruises and all that kind of stuff. But I still get especially like any comic who's older than me, which honestly it's a lot of comics. If I am headlining and they are opening, I get a lot of like they don't like me. They don't like me because
Really?
they don't like how young I am, and they think, oh, this guy's probably only been doing it for 2 years, and he probably he's a
TikTok
TikTok
guy or some
comedian or
shit.
whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I always have to get through that barrier almost every time I'm working with someone new. And sometimes I don't get through it. Sometimes, I definitely have several specific people in mind that I've worked with who just, didn't like me as a person. But yeah, what are you gonna do? I'm not there for them.
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
I'm there for the audience and the people of Laughlin, Nevada. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Dan, how about you?
Oh no, everybody's been wonderful all through my career. I can't think of anybody that I've thrown out of my vehicle and told them that they had to find their own way. I've never done that twice. I've never done that. Um, and and if you look at the comedy situation, though, it's a miracle that there's not more dust ups because we're all many times thrown into a house together with complete strangers to live around each other for a week. And anybody who's been in a place with anybody knows after 3 days, they're like fish, everybody starts to stink. You find what you don't like or you find what you do like. You're the greatest buddies laughing, watching TV, or you go to your rooms and watch your own shit. It's, I
Yeah.
have more club owners that I don't want to work with than other comics, to be quite honest with you. There's
Yeah. Yeah.
a mountain of club owners who are just, you know, they they make it difficult for you at times. And again, they show you what they think of you when they put you up in a shit motel. I'm your entertainment. I'm what's going to make you money for the weekend. So here, let's put me up to a place where there's a hooker standing outside my door when I'm trying to get in my room. At least it's convenient for later that evening. But
Yeah.
I don't like the way we're treated at times, because we are treated like we're just, all the funny, again, no career. We're just there. We're just the funny guys. We're just the reason that you have a full bar. We're just the reason you're selling 2 or 3 grand's worth of liquor and food. We're just the reason you collected all that money at the door. But no, let's treat you like dirt because you're just a funny guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
I
definitely
think that's
tough
more of the
when
problem.
yeah, I mean, like I think that I respect that in the sense that, listen, I'm pretty outspoken kind of guy, so I can understand why somebody may not like me or my persona or my things, my thoughts and all that shit. But hey, that's it is what it is. But with comics, like I said, we're all just to me, I think we're all entertainers, and like you said, it's cool. It's when there's tension or when something happens with club owners that is the most it's the worst part because now I'm not going to work that club. You know what I mean? And I mean,
Yep.
it's one thing if you go to a club and you fuck up or you just bomb and they didn't like you. Okay, that's on you. You know what I mean? That's part of what you do. But when a comedy club looks at your Facebook and they didn't like one post you got and they got fucking triggered about a post and now they're not going to work because you don't fit their I don't know their woke mentality in a sense and they judge you. Steve McGrew, Mudflat McGrew is a friend of mine. There's a story about how Brad Garrett banned him from his room because of his social media postings about Trump and all that shit. And that a person should be able to do whatever the fuck they want. Yeah, and because he doesn't do political humor, he doesn't go up on stage and separate half the room because of his ideological beliefs. He's funny as fuck. He's a professional. So I think the club owners should be professional too and say, hey, you know. And club owners have said, well, I don't want if somebody's going to look at that person, they're not going to come. Well, that person shouldn't come to the show. If that person's going to be freaked out because somebody doesn't like a political candidate, then don't come to the fucking show. If that's the kind of thing then don't come. We don't want you there. I don't want somebody in my show who doesn't like somebody because they are for or against abortion or, they're against or for gay rights. I don't give a fuck. Do it, do what you want. I don't judge people by that. And when comedy clubs do that, it's like, it's just that's a bit of the ugliness of the business that we have to all deal with. You know what I'm saying? Well, I think
Well, that's what
I
I'm
think
talking.
we've
That's what I was talking about. Was it's a one-way street in the comedy industry, and that's what I worked with this booker for 27 years. I never had a single complaint. I got one complaint. I was done working with him. One complaint, and it was a show that I specifically asked him, "Do you want me to be whistle clean or PG-13?" And because I said teabag in a PG-13 show, I offended his audience and I could never work for him again. One show. Not mention all the cancellations and things I showed up at gigs that weren't there. No, that was all good because that street flowed that
right.
way.
Yeah.
Second, it flows the other way. Uh-uh. And I don't have that
Yeah.
trouble with comedy. I only have it with the people who write the checks.
Yeah. Daniel, you mentioned doing the cruises and stuff to start doing that. That's something you got to worry about even more than at most comedy clubs is offending somebody. Cruise ships have become a little more lenient, it appears, in the last in recent times. But that was always the thing about cruise ships. You can easily offend somebody, and the cruise people on cruises are always right.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about specifically cruises where I guess in people's minds they're like, I'm on vacation mode. I can do whatever I want. I can think whatever I want. And there's a sense of entitlement when people are on vacation that don't you dare ruin my vacation. That they just get a little more, I don't know, brave, I guess, when it comes to being, calling out when they're offended or whatever it is. But it's been interesting. That whole world is it's
Yeah, because
different.
people have asked me, like, "You going to do it?" I'm like, "Look, the money's great. I don't do it for the money." I mentioned earlier, but but there's a part of me that if I did want to walk away from the financial planning business, that would be the way to kind of cover the income that was normally there because it's good money, obviously. So, but well, Gentlemen, that's all we have time for here on the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. We didn't even get to the news. You guys are so interesting and full of information that we didn't even get to the stupid headlines, but we'll save them for another day. Dan Elson, everybody. Daniel. I'll just say Daniel. I want to fuck up your name.
Eachus.
Eachus. Daniel Eachus, as it looks, as it's phonetically probably perfectly Daniel Eachus. Dan, where can they find you? What do you want to promote real quick?
EducateRedneck.com has links to everything I'm doing. On my website, there is on my schedule page, you find my radio show that's on Mondays on the Freedomizer Radio Network. I'm on Tuesdays in Osage Beach, Missouri, and also Thursdays in Osage Beach, Missouri. And my travel schedule's there. And so pretty much EducatedRedneck.com covers everything. And I appreciate you having me on the show, Dougie. It's a blast. We made a quick friendship when we met at the World Series, and we've always been there in the final group, and it's always been a pleasure to compete with you. And I hope you have much success.
Thanks, brother. You too, man. You're definitely a good dude, man. I always love seeing you on the road. Daniel?
Yeah, you can add me at Dan Eachus, the word each, the word us, on everything. Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. You can also go to DanielEachus.com and click on the tour tab, and that's where you'll see the next upcoming dates and all that stuff. And then just be sure you follow me on social media, and I post where I'm going to be at, and yeah, all that good stuff. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. Great being on, and good luck, man. I'm impressed. Like seeing you headlining and shit. I'm like, oh, that's great. The guy's headlining and shit. And, I think that's great when I see people working hard and getting fucking, getting the fruits of the labor. That's what this business is all about. I'm going to be in Myrtle Beach, the Comedy Cabana all week. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to be back in Florida the first week of October. So going to be in the Vero Beach Comedy Zone, the 8th and 9th that weekend out there. So be sure to check out, go to DougieAlmeida.com for more dates. Aside from that, I want to again thank Daniel and Dan for joining us today on the show. No show next week since I'm going to be out of town. So stay tuned for whether a replay or whatever. You guys are cool. And don't forget to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. We definitely need the subscribers to build that base up. Aside from that, people in Florida, stay well, be safe out there, and everybody else around the country, God bless. And we'll see you next time right here at the same spot. Take care.